They say you always remember the moment your life changes forever. For me, it wasn't when I married Ethan. It wasn't even when I gave birth to our son. It was the night I realized happiness could be a lie, so beautiful you mistake it for truth. 8 years ago, I was 21, standing barefoot in a kitchen too small for 2 people, holding a positive pregnancy test and crying into Ethan's chest. He laughed, spun me around, and kissed me like we'd just won the lottery. He said, "You're my forever baby. Bye." And I believed him. We were young, broke, and stupidly in love. Ethan was finishing grad school, English literature, the irony of it, and I was working nights at a diner, waiting tables with swollen ankles and a heart full of hope. He used to bring me flowers from the gas station when he got paid. We'd dance in our tiny living room to songs from the radio, pretending the world outside didn't exist. When our son, Noah, was born, I thought that was it. The peak of my life. Ethan held him with tears in his eyes, whispered, "He's perfect, just like you." I still remember the way he looked at me that day, like I was something holy. But the thing about love stories is that they don't always end where they should. Some just rot slowly under the surface. It started small. He came home later, smelling like cheap perfume and excuses. "Grading papers," he said. "Faculty meeting ran late." I wanted to believe him. I needed to, because what kind of wife wants to see the cracks? But the truth has a way of bleeding through silence. I found the first message 6 months after Noah turned 2, a flirty text from a number I didn't recognize. "Last night was amazing. Same time next week?" When I asked him about it, he laughed it off. "One of my students playing a prank," he said, smiling like it was nothing. And I, idiot that I was, let it go. But the lies multiplied. There were lipstick stains on his shirts, new cologne I didn't buy, and hotel receipts tucked behind gas bills. He got better at hiding things. I got better at pretending I didn't notice. There's this kind of quiet humiliation that eats you alive. You start doubting yourself. Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe if I lose weight, dress up more, he'll come back to me. But you can't compete with someone's addiction to deceit. The night I found him out for real, Noah was sick, fever, crying all night. I called Ethan, but he didn't answer. At 2 a.m., I drove to the campus parking lot, thinking maybe he'd fallen asleep in his office. I saw his car there, lights on. When I walked closer, I froze. A shadow moved inside. 2 silhouettes, laughter. And then I saw her, one of his students, the same girl who'd left that message months ago. He didn't even notice me standing there, watching through the windshield. That moment didn't just break my heart. It obliterated the version of myself that trusted him. The next morning, he came home like nothing happened. Kissed Noah, asked what was for breakfast. I said, "You smell like her." The way he froze, just for a second, told me everything. Then he smiled that soft, practiced smile and said, "You're imagining things again." That word, again, lit something inside me. I'd spent years giving him the benefit of the doubt. Carrying our child, scrubbing floors, cutting coupons, working double shifts while he networked. And now I was crazy. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just packed a bag for me and Noah and left. He begged later, of course. Said it was a mistake, that he loved me, cried. But I'd seen him. I'd seen what love meant to him, a temporary thrill, a warm body, an escape. So I filed for divorce. And here's the part most people don't understand. I didn't drag him through court. I didn't take half. I didn't even ask for alimony. I just wanted to be free. He thought that made him the winner, that I was too broken to fight back. But the thing about women like me, we don't stay down. We learn, we wait, we plan. And when the time comes, we burn everything to the ground. Divorce is supposed to be closure, but when I walked out of that courthouse, papers in hand, I didn't feel free. I felt hollow, like I'd traded one kind of pain for another. The whispers followed me everywhere. Poor Adelaide, such a shame. He was a professor, right? You know how those men are. Everyone had an opinion. No one had the guts to ask what it's like to be humiliated and left behind. Ethan was already flaunting his new students at faculty mixers. The kind of girls who thought his scruffy beard and fake intellect were sexy. He'd tell them he was a tortured genius, heartbroken by his cruel ex-wife, and they'd eat it up. Meanwhile, I was working 3 jobs: cafe in the morning, call center at night, freelancing in between. No one knew that some nights I'd sit in the dark with a bottle of wine, scrolling through old photos, our wedding, Noah's first steps, trying to remember when I stopped being happy. But grief has a strange way of transforming into rage. And rage, when properly channeled, can become power. It started small. I blocked Ethan on everything, deleted every trace of him from my phone, my social media, my life. I made a list of everyone who had chosen him over me, his friends, his colleagues, the women who had smiled in my face and slept with my husband behind my back. One night, staring at that list, something in me clicked. Why should I be the one carrying the shame? Why should he get to ruin me and walk away smiling? That's when I decided I wasn't done. The first thing I did was change my name, legally, quietly, no longer Adelaide Barnard, just Addie Pierce, my maiden name. That small act felt like shedding a skin. Then I changed everything else: my hair, my job, my confidence. I started working out, dressing differently. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back, and I liked that. The first time I ran into one of Ethan's colleagues, a man named Miles, it wasn't planned. We bumped into each other at a gallery opening. He was handsome, smart, and far too eager to talk about Ethan's latest academic scandal. Apparently, my ex had been caught flirting with a grad student in his department. Again. I smiled sweetly and said, I can't imagine why anyone would want him. Miles laughed, offered to buy me a drink, and I said yes. That night was the first time in years I felt in control. No guilt, no tears. Just me, deciding what I wanted. After that, things spiraled beautifully. I didn't have to chase Ethan's circle. They found me. His best friend, his drinking buddy, even his department head. All men who had once dismissed me as the professor's wife. They all wanted me now. I didn't tell them the truth, of course. To them, I was mysterious, single, untouchable. But every time one of them touched me, I imagined Ethan's face twisting in jealousy. I wanted him to feel small. I wanted him to know what it was like to be betrayed, again and again. It wasn't just sex. It was strategy. Each man I chose was connected to Ethan, his friends, his mentors, his allies. By the time I was done, he'd have no one left to defend him. 6 months after the divorce, I reached out to Ethan. He was shocked, of course. His reply came in under 5 minutes. Ethan, Addie, is everything okay? Me, I just wanted to talk. No anger, no drama. Maybe coffee? He agreed immediately. I could practically hear the eagerness in his tone. Men like him always want the last word, or the last chance. We met at our old cafe, the one where we used to have breakfast after Noah's doctor appointments. He looked older, worn down, but his smile was the same. Charming, rehearsed, fake. "Addie," he said softly, like my name was sacred. "You look amazing." "I feel amazing," I said. We talked for an hour. About nothing, really. Weather, work, Noah. He was careful, trying to sound sympathetic, remorseful, but I could tell he wanted me back, or at least wanted me to want him. So I played along. I laughed at his jokes, touched his hand at the right moments, let him think I missed him. When he asked if I wanted to come by to talk more, I agreed. And when I followed him into that apartment, the one he once shared with me, I didn't think of the past. I thought of revenge. The next morning, he woke up smiling, pulling me close. "God, I missed you." I smiled back, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Did you?" He nodded, still half asleep. That's when I sat up, looked him straight in the eyes, and said, "Good, because while you were cheating on me, I was sleeping with your best friend, and your boss, and the guy you used to brag about golfing with." The blood drained from his face. He sat up, shaking his head like I'd hit him. "You're lying." "No," I said calmly. "I'm finally being honest, like you should have been." He started shouting, calling me names, accusing me of being vindictive, unhinged. I let him rant until he ran out of breath. Then I smiled and said, "Now you know how it feels to be replaced." And with that, I walked out. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, not peaceful, but free. The day after I left Ethan's apartment, I woke up with sunlight streaming through my curtains, but I couldn't breathe. For a moment, I thought I was drowning, not in water, but in silence, the kind that fills the air after a storm. I had gotten what I wanted. I'd watched his world collapse behind his eyes. But victory doesn't always taste sweet. Sometimes it tastes like ash. For weeks, I couldn't stop replaying the look on his face, the shock, the disbelief, the pain. Part of me reveled in it. The other part hated that I still cared enough to feel anything at all. Because buried beneath all the anger, I knew the truth. I once loved that man. I once believed he'd never hurt me. And no matter how many people I slept with, or how many lies I told, I couldn't rewrite that history. The revenge didn't erase the past. It just painted over it with darker colors. Still, I wasn't done. Not yet. That night, I opened my laptop and found his latest paper online. Some pretentious academic essay about ethical paradoxes in modern relationships. I laughed so hard I cried. He was lecturing the world about ethics while cheating on his wife and students? How poetic. So, I did what any scorned woman with a sharp mind and internet access would do. I sent anonymous tips to his university's ethics board. Nothing traceable. Just enough to spark an investigation. Within weeks, his department was whispering. Students withdrew from his classes. His name began to circulate in faculty meetings, always paired with the word inappropriate. I watched it all unfold from the sidelines, calm, patient. It was almost meditative watching him crumble. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, when Noah was asleep and I was alone, I wondered if I'd gone too far. Was I becoming the monster I used to hate? Then I'd remember the nights I cried myself to sleep while he was out with other women. The empty fridge, the unpaid bills, the way he told me I was boring. No, I wasn't the monster. I was the reckoning. The idea came to me in the most ordinary way. I was folding laundry, Noah's tiny socks, my work clothes, when my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. Again. Ethan. Addie, please. We need to talk. I can't stop thinking about you. Ethan. I know I messed up, but maybe we can start over. For Noah. I should have blocked him, but instead, I sat there, watching the typing bubble appear and disappear. And somewhere between anger and amusement, a spark ignited. If he wanted to believe we could start over, maybe I'd let him, but on my terms. I texted back, maybe. There's something I need to tell you first. He called immediately. When I answered, his voice was trembling. What is it? I took a deep breath, pressed my palm to my chest to steady my heartbeat, and said softly, I'm pregnant. Silence, then a long exhale. Oh my God. Addie, are you serious? I let my voice shake just a little. Yes, I don't know how to feel. He didn't hesitate. It's mine? Yes, I whispered. Of course. He started crying, or pretending to. I can't believe this, he said. Maybe this is fate. Maybe we were meant to find our way back. I closed my eyes and smiled. Maybe. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and stared at the ceiling. There was no baby, of course. But, for the first time, I had him where I wanted him. Desperate, guilty, and completely under my control. Within days, he was sending money. $400 the first week, then every month after that. He insisted it was for the baby. Doctor appointments, vitamins, whatever I needed. He started calling daily, asking about symptoms, baby names, even nursery colors, and I played the part perfectly. I downloaded a pregnancy tracker app just to sound authentic. I even complained about cravings and morning sickness. He believed every word, and I began to believe in my own power again. I told myself it wasn't about the money, though God knows I needed it. It was about justice, about balance. He took everything from me, my trust, my security, my sanity. Now I was taking something back. 9 months later, I ended it. I waited until the calendar said what it needed to say, until the due date arrived. Then I called him. He sounded so excited. Addie, are you okay? Is it time? Do you need me to come? My voice was cold. Ethan, the baby, didn't make it. Silence. Long, breathless silence. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. What do you mean? I took a shaky breath, letting tears fill my eyes, real ones this time. Stillbirth. The doctor said it just happened. I'm sorry. He broke down, sobbing, apologizing, begging me to let him see me, to say goodbye to a child that never existed. I said no. I said I needed space. And then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. For weeks, he sent messages. Long, rambling apologies, poems, promises to change. I didn't read them. I didn't reply. And eventually, the messages stopped. I expected to feel triumphant. I expected satisfaction. But instead, I felt empty. Like I'd spent years building a fire, and suddenly realized I was the one standing in the flames. Yes, I'd hurt him. Yes, I'd made him pay. But somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten to stop hurting myself. No one tells you that revenge is addictive. It consumes you. And when there's no one left to punish, it turns inward. A year later, I stood on the balcony of my small apartment, watching Noah chase bubbles in the park below. The sun hit his hair just right, golden and wild, like mine used to be before everything. Life had finally settled. No drama, no lies, just peace, the quiet kind you earn after burning everything to the ground. Sometimes I still thought of Ethan, not with hatred anymore, but with pity. I'd heard through a mutual friend that he lost his job. The ethics board found enough dirt to end his career. He moved out of town, started teaching online courses for pennies. He's probably still wondering what went wrong, and maybe someday I'll tell him the truth, that there was never a baby, that he wasn't just punished, he was taught. Because that's what he never understood about me. I wasn't weak. I wasn't disposable. I was the storm he created. Now when people ask about my past, I tell them this. I lost myself once, but I found her again, in the ashes. No regrets, no apologies, just rebirth. I looked down at my son, my real reason to survive, and whispered, "We're okay now, baby. We're finally free." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain, and for the first time in years, I smiled without bitterness. Because revenge wasn't the ending. It was the beginning of the woman I was always meant to become.